What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Break Room. This week, we're going to be taking a look at our SCF series. If you guys don't know what they are, here's what they look like. These things are pretty cool. We're going to put them to the test today and just see how strong these are. Let's do it. All right, guys, like I mentioned in the intro, today we're going to be taking a look at our SCF series from VIM and show you guys just how strong these are. They do look kind of different, but I'm going to show you some cool uses for these, and we're going to test them out on several different things. Obviously, if you have a strip, nut, or bolt, or a stud, you may want to use something like this in place of Cobras just because of the leverage you can get off of these by putting a breaker bar or a ratchet on them. And also, if you're in a spot where you may need that to take off a nut or bolt, you can use these as well. Building the perfect toolbox is all about options, and having different tools that can do kind of different things in different areas will help you get your jobs done a little easier. And these, although they may look a little funny, they do work extremely well, and we're going to prove that today, and we're going to show you just how strong they are. Before we get started in the test, I want to run over a couple of the different sizes that we have. There's 4 different options of these. We'll start off with the smallest one, and that part number is a SCF 1/4. It is a 1/4 inch drive, hence the name 1/4 at the end of the part number. That does sizes 3/16 to 7/16 or 5mm up to 12mm. As you can see, it is a spring-loaded jaw that's on this tool. It will grip round, it'll grip stripped, it'll grip kind of misshapen, square, triangular, octagon, whatever kind of situation you may face. The way these jaws are designed, they'll be able to bite it. So that's the 1/4 inch version. The 3/8 version is a SCF 3/8. Imagine that. Once again, VIM keeps their part number simple. Same design, spring-loaded jaw. This one goes up larger, obviously. It is a 5/16 to 11/16 or 8mm up to 17mm. And this will be the one that we test today. The next larger size is a SCF 1/2. So SCF 12, that's a 1/2 inch drive, as you guys can see. Same design, spring-loaded, you're ready to go. It goes up from a 9/16 to 1.25 or a 14mm up to a 32mm. And finally, the granddaddy of them all is the SCF 25A. This one goes on the breaker bar handle that's extendable and has the cutout here. If you'll notice on the back side, it does have the hole in it where the detent locks it in. So you guys that's doing alignments, tie rod ends, this thing is going to be a lifesaver. You expand that breaker bar handle out and you'll be able to put some tremendous leverage on it. This one goes from a 13/16 to a 1 7/8 or a 20mm up to a 48mm. And as you guys can see here, it will open up pretty large. So this bad boy has got some bite. So the way we're going to be testing this is obviously to simulate a strip bolt or a nut or a stud. And we're going to be using the test apparatus that we built for the RFW that failed when we welded the bolt and the extension and twisted the bolt off, because I highly underestimated the strength of those flare nut wrenches. So we're going to be using the bolt side of this today. Personally, I think it'll break the weld out before the tool fails, because these things have some serious bite. So that's going to cover our strip, nut, or bolt, or studs. And for our good nut or bolt that we're going to be simulating a test for, we'll be using the VIM 1/2 inch drive 12mm hex. So we're going to go over here to our test bench. We're going to put these through the paces. We'll test them with the round one first, see what it does, and then we'll switch it out to a new hex bit, which will simulate a good bolt or nut, and we'll see what it'll do. I personally don't think these will fail. I'm just going to go ahead and state that. We have not shot the video. You see the stuff's here. I think it will either break the test apparatus that we have, or it will strip the hex, or it will strip the teeth. As far as the failure of the tool, I do not think that's going to happen because this thing is extremely beefy, as you can tell just by the pin size. But who knows? We're going to put them to the test, and we'll know just soon enough. So you guys, come on. We'll take it over here, and we'll try our best to break them. All right, guys. So we're over here at our test bench. This is going to be a pretty simple test. Like I explained earlier, we have our broken bolt that we use. This is a regular bolt that's welded into this extension. We're going to place that into our test apparatus. We're going to take our VIM SCF 38, which is the 3/8 drive, 5/16 to 11/16, or 8 millimeter up to 17 millimeter. We're going to be using that on our TH21 breaker bar handle. This is the same handle that we'll use the big boy, the SCF 25A. We're going to put it in here. We're going to turn our machine on. Let it calibrate out. You guys see it 0. We're going to put our SCF on the simulated stripped or broken stud. And we're going to start applying pressure to it and just see what happens. Something's giving away. Maybe stripping it. Let me get another bite. Yep, as I expected, it just twisted off the bolt that you guys see here. Got it up to 85 foot-pounds. You can see, obviously, there's no damage to the tool itself. It just ate the bolt off where it was welded into the extension. It's not a very impressive test. I know that's why we have the hex to simulate a good bolt. But you guys know, you can see the biting force on this thing here, how much it bit in. It will bite. That's what I was telling you earlier. There's no doubt in my mind that the spring-loaded crow feet will definitely bite into whatever that you're working on. So we're going to put our 12 millimeter hex in there to simulate the new one. We're going to clear it out. I'll make sure to put some footage of this in here, and that way you guys can see the bite that these have. Okay, for this test, we're going to be using the same SCF 38. We have a 12 millimeter hex put into our apparatus. This is a VIM hex. We're going to be using our TH21 breaker bar handle. That's the extendable handle that will work with the different attachments, such as the SCF 25A. Have a breaker bar head on here reduced down to 3/8. We're going to clear a meter. I do have safety glasses on for this one because it is hardened. So it gets to about 80 foot-pounds. You guys can see, obviously this is a very hard, hard material with a hex bit. There's no damage to the teeth. It's just slipping at about 80 foot-pounds, as you see. We'll try it again. So it damaged the teeth on the back of the SCF. You guys can see here, just biting down on it. Obviously, this hex is a much harder material, so it's going to be a lot harder than any bolt or nut that you'd be putting that on. So there you go, guys. As I foreshadowed in the video that was shot in the studio part before we come here, I didn't think we would have a failure on these at all just because they are so beefy. I honestly figured out we would strip either the teeth here or the corners on the hex or whatever. I fully expected to twist the round material off just because I think it gets so brittle during the welding process when we're building that. But I didn't expect to have a failure on the tool. I expected it to slip, but as you guys know that have worked with any kind of nuts or bolts or hex or whatever, the material that's used and these hex bits are extremely strong, and it did not damage the corners on the hex. There's a little wire where it took the coating off, but it did not strip the hex. These are extremely hard, so I fully expected the test to kind of go like it did. The teeth did get stripped out inside the tool itself, and it did not break. It did not fail. Still at around 80 foot-pounds, it's pretty impressive. The clamping force these has, the more you push down, the harder they bite. So that is pretty impressive. So that's the video this week. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'm sorry there wasn't some big massive explosion of tools that went everywhere in the shop, but I fully expected the test to kind of go like it did. These are super beefy, they're super strong, and obviously you guys know hex bits are hardened way more than bolts or nuts or any kind of fasteners that you'd be using them on in a typical application. So it did exactly as I thought. It stripped the teeth out inside of here. It did not damage this. I'll put a close-up here, and that way you guys can see it. I say these performed extremely well, especially knowing how hard a hex bit is versus a bolt or a nut, which you guys can see the close-ups of, and you know how well these things actually bite. But anyway, that's the video. Hopefully you guys liked it. If you do, hit that thumbs up. Check out these tools on your local tool truck or vimtools.com. You guys have a great weekend, and we will catch you next time.